The farm is heading to foreclosure, my brother Marcus declared, slamming a court notice onto my kitchen table with the smug triumph of someone who'd been waiting years for this exact moment. You should have repaid Dad's loan when you had the opportunity. My mother stood just behind him, arms folded, murmuring to my aunt, she'll finally learn accountability. Maybe losing everything will teach her what we never could. They had driven 3 hours from the city just to deliver the news face to face, to see me fall apart, to prove at last that the daughter who walked away from their corporate blueprint was doomed to fail. What none of them knew, what no one outside the tightly controlled network I had built understood, was that the failing farm they were trying to take was actually the sole supplier for every Michelin-starred restaurant across the tri-state area, backed by contracts worth more than my brother's law firm would earn in 10 years. The debt they claimed I owed was $35,000. My farm generated $2.3 million annually, but my family had no idea. They'd never bothered to ask. You have 30 days to vacate, Marcus continued, his lawyer's tone heavy with condescension. The county assessor will arrive Friday to appraise the property for auction. Anything left after the debt is settled will be placed in escrow, which, judging by the condition of this place, I doubt will be much. He waved dismissively toward the view outside my kitchen window. Rows of meticulously maintained greenhouses, fields of heirloom vegetables, climate-controlled buildings, where I cultivated ingredients chefs paid a premium to obtain. To Marcus, it was just dirt and plastic. I never agreed to any loan, I said softly. Dad's estate paperwork says otherwise. He loaned you $35,000 for startup costs 6 years ago. Interest has accrued. You now owe $47,000. And since Mom is the executor, she's authorized me to collect. I turned to my mother. Mom, Dad gave me that money as a gift. He said he wanted to invest in my dream. There was never a loan agreement. Your father was too lenient with you, she replied without meeting my gaze. He enabled your foolish choices. I'm fixing that mistake by taking my farm, by teaching me lesson. She finally looked at me, her face a blend of disdain and disappointment. I'd known my whole life. You chose to play in the dirt instead of building a real career. You turned down every opportunity Marcus and I offered. Now, you'll learn what happens when fantasy collides with reality. I could have challenged them right then. I could have produced contracts, financial records, client endorsements. I could have shown them exactly how wrong they were. But I didn't, because I'd learned long ago that my family didn't listen to words. They only responded to proof. Irrefutable, public, impossible to ignore. The assessor comes Friday? I asked. Friday morning, 9 a.m., Marcus said, smiling smugly. I'll be here to make sure everything runs smoothly. Fine. I'll see you Friday. They left certain they had won. They had no idea what was about to happen. My farm, Green Valley Organic, had been built from nothing over 6 years of unrelenting effort. When I left my corporate marketing job to become a farmer, my family reacted with outrage. Marcus called it a quarter-life crisis. My mother suggested therapy. My father, the only one who believed in me, gave me the $35,000 and told me to prove them wrong. He died 2 years later, never seeing what I'd built. But I carried his faith with me through every obstacle. Those early years were ruthless. I made every mistake a new farmer could make. Lost entire harvests to weather, pest, and inexperience. But I learned. I adjusted. I found my edge. I quickly realized commodity farming was a race to the bottom. Large operations would always beat small farms on scale and price. So I went the opposite way. Ultra-premium specialty produce that couldn't be mass-produced. I grew heritage tomato varieties most farmers had abandoned decades earlier. I cultivated microgreens so fragile they Had to be harvested by hand. I built relationships with seed collectors worldwide to source ingredients that simply didn't exist anywhere else, and I created a client list that looked like a who's who of American fine dining. The Green Fork in Manhattan, Seaside Inn, Boston, Harvest Moon in Philadelphia, 12 Michelin-starred restaurants in total, along with 30 more elite restaurants, specialty grocers, and private chefs serving the ultra-wealthy. My waitlist for new clients stretched 18 months. Chefs who wanted my produce had to sign contracts guaranteeing minimum orders for 2 years. Some of my rarest offerings: purple carrots, golden beets, 12 varieties of heirloom garlic sold at prices that would have made my commodity farming neighbors faint. But none of this was public knowledge. I kept everything intentionally quiet. No social media, no press, no farm tours. For curious food lovers, my clients valued discretion. They didn't want rival businesses discovering where their ingredients came from, and I had my own reasons for keeping things discreet. To anyone on the outside, I appeared to be just a woman running a modest organic farm, likely barely getting by selling vegetables at local farmers' markets. Within the restaurant world, however, I was the most in-demand produce supplier on the entire East Coast. My family had never questioned which version was real. They assumed the first because it supported their belief that I'd amounted to nothing. They were about to realize how wrong they were. Friday morning dawned cool and bright, ideal conditions for shattering my family's illusions. Marcus showed up at 8:30, dressed in a suit that looked completely out of place on a working farm. My mother arrived with him, her face set in a look of eager satisfaction. They'd also brought my Aunt Patricia along, likely to serve as a witness to my supposed embarrassment. At exactly 9 a.m., a county vehicle turned into the driveway. The assessor, a middle-aged man named Thomas Brennan, stepped out carrying a clipboard and a camera, moving with the practiced precision of someone who had evaluated thousands of properties over the years. "Miss Delacroix, I'm here to conduct the court-ordered assessment." "Of course," I replied. "Please feel free to examine whatever you need." Marcus immediately pushed himself into the conversation. "The property is roughly 40 acres. There's the original farmhouse, a few outbuildings, and basic irrigation. I've already done some initial research. Comparable farmland in this county goes for around $8,000 per acre. This should be a simple valuation." Thomas glanced at him. "And you are?" "Marcus Delroy, attorney for the estate. My mother is the executor." "I see." Thomas jotted something down. "I appreciate the information, but I'll need to perform my own evaluation. These assessments take time." "How much time are we talking about?" Marcus asked. "At least several hours. Agricultural properties require a thorough review: soil quality, water rights, infrastructure conditions, and any specialized equipment or facilities." His gaze moved across the land, settling on the greenhouse complex. "Those structures, for example, will need individual inspection." "They're just greenhouses," Marcus said dismissively. "Plastic and piping." Thomas didn't reply. He was already heading toward the fields. The assessment lasted 4 hours. Thomas covered every acre on foot. He took photographs of the greenhouses, the climate-controlled storage units, and the specialized irrigation systems I'd put in place. He inspected my processing areas, seed storage, and propagation labs. Around the second hour, his demeanor began to change. He started making phone calls, several of them. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but his posture told the story. The way he stood straighter, the way he took more photographs, the way he kept returning to re-examine areas he'd already reviewed. Marcus grew visibly restless. "This is taking way too long." "It's just a farm." "It's a complex agricultural operation," Thomas corrected. "I'm observing significant infrastructure investment. I need to confirm the specialized equipment here. Controlled environment agriculture that requires expert valuation." "Expert valuation?" Marcus scoffed. "For vegetables?" Thomas fixed him with a long look. "Sir, do you actually know what's being grown here? Organic produce. Tomatoes, lettuce, whatever. The kind of stuff sold at farmers' markets." "I see." Thomas made another note. "Miss Delroy, may I review your client records?" "Of course." They're in my office. I led him to the small building where I handled the farm's business operations. Behind us, I could hear Marcus and my mother following along, finally curious about what was unfolding. I opened my filing cabinet and removed the client folder. These include my current contracts, ongoing partnerships, guaranteed orders, and payment histories. Thomas opened the folder and scanned the first page, then the next. He stopped, lifted his eyes, and stared at me with barely hidden astonishment. "Miss Delroy," he asked quietly, "is this information accurate? You supply the Green Fork?" "Yes. They've been a client for 4 years. And Seaside Harvest Moon, yes and yes. And this list here, 12 Michelin-starred restaurants. 13 now. As of last month, Lumiere and Baltimore both earned their first star. They've been my client for 2 years." Thomas set the folder down and took out his phone. "I need to make a call." He stepped outside. Through the window, I watched him speak urgently into the phone, motioning toward the greenhouses, occasionally glancing back at my office with a look of disbelief. Marcus appeared in the doorway. "What's happening? What's in that folder?" "My business records." "Let me see them." "No. I'm the attorney for the estate. You're the attorney trying to seize my property using a fabricated debt claim. You have no right to review my private business documents." "Fabricated? There's a loan. There was a gift from our father, who explicitly told me it was an investment in my dream, not a loan. You invented this entire claim because Mom wants to punish me for not living the life she planned for me." My mother stepped in behind Marcus. "That money was part of the estate. We have every right. You have no rights to anything that belongs to me. And in about 5 minutes you're going to understand just how badly you've misjudged this." Thomas returned, his face flushed. "Miss Delacroix, I've spoken with my supervisor. We're going to need more time to complete this assessment. The property's value is far higher than the initial estimate." "How much higher?" Marcus demanded. Thomas looked at him, then at my mother, then back at me. "Sir, this is not a failing farm. Miss Delacroix supplies premium organic produce to every Michelin-starred restaurant in the tri-state area. Her contracts alone are worth," he checked his notes, "her annual revenue exceeds $2 million. Her client relationships, proprietary seed stocks, and specialized infrastructure add significant value beyond the land itself." The room fell completely silent. "I've been in this profession for 23 years, Thomas continued. I've never encountered a specialty agricultural operation like this. The greenhouses are commercial-grade, controlled environment systems. The seed library contains varieties that collectors would consider priceless. The client list reads like a guide to fine dining in America." He turned to Marcus. "Who told you this was a failing farm? Because whoever gave you that information was either lying or profoundly ignorant." Marcus looked at my mother. My mother stared down at the floor. "Based on my preliminary assessment," Thomas concluded, "this property is valued between $4 and $6 million. The precise figure will require additional expert consultation, but that range is not in doubt." He gathered his materials. "I'll submit my report to the court. The foreclosure action will likely be dismissed. The alleged debt represents only a fraction of the property's value, and frankly, the legitimacy of the claim itself is now questionable." He walked out without saying another word. The silence lingered for nearly a minute. Then Marcus began to scramble. "This doesn't change anything. The loan is still valid. We can work out a payment plan." "There is no loan, Marcus. There never was." I pulled out a file I had prepared years earlier, waiting for this exact moment. "This is Dad's journal from 6 years ago. The entry dated March 15th clearly states, 'Gave Sophie $35,000 today. Told her it was an investment in her dream, not a loan. Linda will be furious, but I believe in this girl. She's going to prove them all wrong.'" I handed the journal to Marcus. He read the entry, the color draining from his face. Dad kept journals for 3 decades. They're included in his estate documentation. You would have uncovered them if you'd done proper due diligence instead of focusing on trying to damage me. I took the journal back. "It will be submitted to the court. Your fabricated debt claim will be dismissed. And depending on the judge's view, you could be facing sanctions for filing a frivolous case." "Hold on a second." "No, you hold on." I stepped toward my brother, every ounce of 6 years' worth of anger finally breaking free. "You came here to take my farm. You came here to humiliate me. You came here to prove that your path was the only acceptable one, and that mine was nothing more than a failure's fantasy. I motioned toward the window at the greenhouses, the fields, the operation I had built with my own hands. I supply 13 Michelin-starred restaurants. I have an 18-month waitlist for new clients. Chefs fly in from other states just to see what I'm growing. My farm brings in more annual revenue than your law practice. Marcus said nothing. I turned to my mother. You never believed in me. Not when I graduated at the top of my class. Not when I built a successful marketing career. Not when I walked away to follow my own path. You spent my entire life waiting for me to fail so you could say, I told you so. I was only trying to protect you. No, you were trying to control me. And when control failed, you turned to destruction. I shook my head. Dad believed in me. He gave me his blessing and his support. And for the 4 years since his death, you've been trying to undo everything he stood for. My mother's face collapsed, but it didn't sway me. Leave my farm. Do not contact me again. If you attempt anything else, any more legal actions, any more schemes, I will respond with every resource I have. And as you've just discovered, those resources are substantial. Marcus gathered his papers and left without a word. My Aunt Patricia followed, looking stunned. My mother hesitated. Sophie, I never meant. Yes, you did. You meant every word. You just didn't expect consequences. I'm your mother. No, you're the woman who tried to steal my livelihood to teach me a lesson. Those are two very different things. I opened the door. Goodbye, Mom. She walked away. I shut the door and stood by myself in the kitchen, gazing out over the farm I had built, the greenhouses shining in the afternoon light, the fields prepared for spring planting. It was a life I had created from nothing but persistence and my father's belief in me. 6 weeks later, the court threw out the foreclosure case. The judge's ruling clearly pointed to the absence of documented proof supporting the alleged debt, along with the conflicting evidence found in my father's journals. Marcus was issued an official warning for submitting a frivolous claim. My mother tried to contact me twice. I didn't answer either time. But I did make one decision. For 6 years I had kept my success out of sight. I chose privacy over acknowledgement, restraint over exposure. I allowed my family to think I was failing because their judgment felt disconnected from my real life. Now I understood the price of staying silent. I hired a publicist. I agreed to interviews. I let food magazines photograph my greenhouses and showcase my operation. When the New York Times food section reached out about a feature on farm-to-table sourcing, I accepted. The article was published 3 months later. It featured images of my fields, praise from Michelin-starred chefs who relied on my produce, and a detailed story of how I had built a multimillion-dollar agricultural business from the ground up. The headline read, "The Hidden Queen of High-End Produce." I sent a copy to my mother, not to boast, not for revenge, but so that the next time she told someone her daughter was a failure, they could look me up and learn the truth on their own. Last week I received a letter from Marcus. "Sophie, I owe you an apology. Not a legal one, my lawyer advised against that, but a personal one. I accepted everything Mom told me without questioning it. I never came to the farm, never asked about your business, never gave you the fairness I would have shown a complete stranger. That's on me. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know that I see what you've built, and I'm truly impressed. Dad was right about you. I wish I'd realized it sooner. Your brother, whether you want me or not, Marcus." I read the letter twice. Then I replied, "Marcus, you tried to take my farm. You automatically sided with Mom. You came to my land expecting to see me fail. But you also just admitted you were wrong, something Mom still hasn't done. I'm not ready to forgive you, but I'm willing to see if you can earn it. If you want to rebuild any kind of relationship, you'll have to do the work. No shortcuts. No assumptions. Start by visiting the farm. Really see what I've built. Meet the people who work here. Understand why this matters to me. Then we'll talk. Your sister, whether you deserve me or not, Sophie. They called my farm a failure. They tried to take it over for $47,000. The county assessor uncovered a $6 million agricultural enterprise supplying the best restaurants in the country. My father believed in me when no one else did. Now the whole world knows he was right.